What's up everybody? I'm here. I'm finally doing my overhead press video. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm actually filming on Facebook Live as well, my collegiate strength training group. So if you're in college, if you strength train and you're not on that group, you want to get in there. I try to post cool stuff on there all the time. And if you're in the group, stay tuned because I'm doing my Q&A that's actually from Instagram. So I'll take my phone, I'll show you what's going on here. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So YZ1810 says, is it necessary to start each rep at the clavicle? So when talking about the overhead press, you have to start it all the way at the clavicle. Is it necessary? It's one of those questions where it depends on your goals, but if it's me, I'm definitely going to start at the clavicle each time. I just like doing things in the full range of motion, and there's a benefit to muscle growth when you do work as full of a range of motion as you can throughout a joint. So I would say that it's better to do it that way. I wouldn't say that you have to though. Second question by Tim5Taff. How does grip width affect muscle growth? So the closer that you are together, right, it's going to be a little more tricep and a little more anterior delt, right? It makes sense because you're going to be pushing up and back that way. The more wider that you go, it's going to lessen the stress on the front of the delt and work more of the side, and the triceps aren't going to have to do quite as much work. It's still going to be pretty tricep intensive, especially as you get towards locking out. That's usually where people fail, but that's pretty much the shift that's going to happen. The top of your chest as well, like your clavicular pecs, are also going to be quite involved when you're here as opposed to when you're out here. This will once again shift more to the shoulders themselves. Now, I still wouldn't suggest doing overhead press out here. I like more of a Olympic lifting style or inspired overhead press where you're more in front and everything's lined up. But if your goals are purely for size, then you may decide to use different grips. Lewis PUA, any cues you use while doing overhead press? All right, so cues for overhead press. I'll start from the feet up. Basically, I keep my feet around hip width. I keep my a slight bend in my knees. It just relax, soft knees. I'm not thinking about bending them, but I'm also trying to avoid keeping them completely locked out. Then when it comes to the midsection, I breathe out to set my rib cage down, right? I don't want it flared open. So a lot of people, when they overhead press, they actually open up the rib cage, and it puts a lot of stress on the lower back. It doesn't allow you to stay braced properly. So I'm pushing my rib cage down when I breathe out. I brace into it, so I breathe in and I flex very hard to keep my core braced in a nice stable position. Next, I've already set my grip, so I'm thinking wrist over elbows. Then as I push up, I'm thinking about driving my feet into the floor, coming all the way overhead, and starting back down. And my goal is to make each rep the same. I'm also thinking heavily of trying to keep it as close to over my center as I can. So the farther out the bar goes, the more chance you're gonna have of missing that lift. If you can keep it nice and close to you, get your head through early and keep it in a straight line, or at least as close to that as possible, you're gonna have more success with the overhead press. The slow method, should the knees be locked? And are there any lessons to be made by not going completely strict, as in push pressing it? Once again, like I said, knees shouldn't be locked. Always want some soft knees. Don't want it too bent, but you definitely don't want to be locked out really in any exercise. Only something bad can happen by doing so. Is there any losses in push pressing it? The only loss is that your upper body's not doing all the work, but it can be sort of used as overload work, meaning you're helping yourself work on possibly your lockout, right? If you have trouble starting and you push press it up, it'll help you work that end range, and it may carry over to overhead pressing more. Can't really say, I don't really do push presses, but that would be the thing. You're just using momentum to help you get it up. Some kind of Julian, what helps you more with developing stronger shoulders, standing overhead press or dumbbell shoulder presses? All right, this is a question that really has no right answer. Both are great for developing the shoulders. If it was strength, I would say the standing overhead press, just because you're going to be able to load more with the bar. If it's dumbbells, that's probably something that people will use more for size, although both can be used for both. It sort of depends on preference, but I would say if you're talking just for strength, then the overhead press is probably going to allow you to progress faster. When getting stronger on bench, do you recommend bench variations or accessory work to increase strength? So this isn't an overhead press question, but I'll answer it anyway. It's in the same comment. So for bench strength, the best thing that's going to get you stronger at the bench is the bench press. The next closest thing would be bench variations to address where you're weak in the bench press, and then accessory work is going to help you build up the muscles that will support you in the bench press. So long term, you do need accessory work. If you're talking about immediate strength, you're going to want to bench press, and if you've been bench pressing for a while and you're starting to get a little weaker at it, then you're going to want to look at variations like close grip bench press, wide bench press, board bench press, different variations, and then always keeping accessory work in the mix just so you're building that muscle up to get more volume and maybe hit some angles and weak points that you can't otherwise. So that's it for the overhead press questions. Thank you guys for your questions. I'm gonna make sure to post something else like this soon on another topic so you guys can continue to ask me questions. If you have any questions, you can comment it in the link below. I'll make sure to get to it. Make sure to comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video.